Hey, I'm David.
I'm Chris.
This is the Realtor Daddy podcast.
Welcome. So, we want to talk about mainly about real estate today, and we want to talk about the event that we just went to. It's called Priced into Paradise. David did a few interviews, I did an interview with the family, and let's talk about it. How was it for you, man?
And I thought, honestly, it was a great event. It was so amazing to see all these local families out there just trying to stay here. And I think that's what we like to talk about on this podcast too, is it's enabling and empowering local families to just try to stay here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was such a huge turnout
it
too. I mean,
was. It was great.
yeah, it was, I mean, I wish we had a count of like how many people were there, but I talked to some friends who had booths at the event, and they said like hundreds of families had come to learn about how to stay here. So fantastic event. I loved it. I mean, what was your take on it?
Yeah, so basically, when I first went there, everyone was just super helpful. They like kind of swarmed me because it was like 10 a.m. They're like, "Hey, are you buying, renting? What are you doing?" But that just shows the willingness for people to help, and that's what people were there for, to learn, to make connections, get resources, right? And we saw a lot of our friends too.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see like other people also trying to spread that same message, and just trying to keep people here. So truly fantastic. I think we should try to join that event next year.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
like a booth or something.
Yeah. So me actually found it. It's $500 per booth.
Hmm.
And I think it kind of goes up depending where your booth is. So I think if you're like towards the front, it's gonna be like a little bit more expensive
Oh,
because you'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
like the first people they kind of catch.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. But I think we should totally set up a booth next year. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would you set the booth up as? Like a real estate service, buy your first home?
yeah. I think so. I think that'd be a great premise to start at. Especially because it really fits that message of that whole event, right?
Yeah,
So, I think our goal there would just be to try to teach local families what they can do, even just like small baby steps
yeah,
of what they can take to stay here and to make life here a little bit more enjoyable, um, and just so they don't have to move anywhere else.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's an unfortunate truth. We'll talk about this all the time. People are moving out of Hawaii. It's too expensive. Milk, eggs, freaking expensive. Shut up.
absolutely.
Like, just things. Things are expensive, and I feel it all the time when I go to like the grocery. I'm like, okay, how much am I gonna spend now? $200. I'm like, okay, cool.
Bro, I feel you. Me and I used to live really close to Costco, and we still kind of do.
Yeah.
But I noticed just like our Costco bill, like pre-COVID versus like today,
Oh, yeah.
it's insane. Like just how much inflation has just taken away from us. Like the price of gas and like just milk in
Yeah.
general. I think at Costco a gallon of milk used to be like 2.80
Oh,
for a
wow.
gallon. Now
Yeah.
it's like 4.50, almost $5.
Dude, doubled.
Yeah. And that's like not even looking at the grocery store yet. Like the grocery store milk is like $10 a gallon or more,
Yeah.
right?
Well, how do they keep it so cheap? That's like a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Of course, wholesale prices, but like, thank you, Costco. This is
Yes.
not sponsored, but man, I survive off Costco,
Me
dude.
too. Me too.
Like, we buy the big meats, $50 lasts a whole month.
Yeah.
But anyways, going off topic, I do want to talk about the interview you had with that gentleman named John. He's your friend,
Yes.
realtor.
Yes. John Quindara. He is a local realtor. He focuses on helping local families just stay in Hawaii.
That's
And it
awesome.
was a really great interview. We'll cut to the interview here. Hey everybody, welcome to the Realtor Daddy podcast. We have Mr. John Quindara here.
How's that?
Mr. Home Keys Hawaii.
Focus away. Yep.
Yeah. So, John, I gotta ask, what does being priced into paradise mean to you?
Perfect. Yeah. So the reason why I love this event, right, and I wanted to be a part of it, is, and this, I'm gonna get real philosophical. We're not gonna get into the nuts and bolts and everything.
Please do,
But I really think it starts with the mindset, right? There's so much, not negative narrative out there, but real concerns that people are facing, right? Like, how do I afford to buy a home? How do I afford to do anything? When I really think it all starts with your mindset, right? Like if you think you can stay here. If you think you can do it, then essentially you're gonna look out and you're gonna take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to you. That are gonna allow you to do that, right? So Price into Paradise, the reason why I want to be part of this is because I want it to be part of the narrative that yes, buying a home here in Hawaii is hard. Yes, staying here in Hawaii is hard. Yes, it's expensive. None of that stuff is easy, and none of that stuff is going to be solved overnight or quickly. But if we can flip that narrative on its head and just educate and more importantly inspire and empower our locals, our friends, more importantly our family members and friends that it's possible and we can do it and that people are doing it already, then hopefully, it's going to help more of our locals kind of take the right choices and do what they have to do in order to stay in Hawaii.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do what we can to keep locals here, right?
100%. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So, John, what is one piece of advice that you can give to local families right now? Some actionable advice so that they can stay here. Like if they have the goal of home ownership, what can they do right now?
Perfect. Yeah. So what I would do, any suggestion is find out where you are financially. So literally sit down with you and your spouse, your kids, whoever you need to figure out with. Sit down, write how much income you have coming in every single month, and write all of the things you spend in a given month, right? Like all of the bills, all the fun stuff you do every time you go out, your car payment, all that stuff. Write all that stuff down and see what that number is on the bottom. I think the biggest thing we do as locals is we just swipe and forget, right? We swipe and pray that we're good.
Oh yeah.
Right, but we really need to see financially where we are, because once you see that number, if it's not great, it should scare you to then look back at what are you spending and cut the fluff, right? Cut whatever fluff you have to in order to make sure that you're making enough money to stay here. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Awesome, man. Thank you, John.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys.
Oh, one more question.
Yes.
How do we follow you?
Home Keys Hawaii. Keys. Sorry, I can't even spell. Home Keys Hawaii. HOMEKEYS Hawaii spelled out. Look me up on Instagram. Please send me a follow. And yeah. Thanks, guys.
So I love what he said about the whole message behind being priced into paradise. And I think it really resonates with the audience that we're trying to talk to through this podcast. I love how he gave that really tiny, like, actionable advice for local families. And I think my question to him was, what was one actionable advice that you could give to local families right now if they have a plan to buy a home here and stay here? And his answer was truly really simple, but probably like one of the hardest things for local families to do, and even for myself.
Oh yeah.
And his answer was just for the families to really just sit down and look at your finances, cut out the fluff, and just see where you're kind of just bleeding money.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's one of the hardest things for local families to do. Right. And I think we mentioned this in our last podcast where a lot of local families just try to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is like truly the fastest ticket to just living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Right. So I think getting down and dirty with your finances, really looking at the nitty gritty of it all, I think that is like a huge first step for local families to take if they're going to embark on that home ownership journey.
Exactly, man. I'm right with you in that, and it's kind of painful, but you have to look yourself in the mirror and see where you're bleeding, see what, like, just looking at your bank statements, you can see where your money's flowing to. It kind of shows who you kind of are, right? Like if you have expensive hobbies, if you spend too much on food, if you, I don't know, spend too much on gas, you can make adjustments.
Yeah,
Actually,
absolutely.
yeah, gas is kind of a non-negotiable because you have like to travel, right?
Yeah,
But
for
other
sure.
things.
It's so funny. Like I think Taylor Swift's song said it best.
What is that?
It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
local families gotta resonate with
God.
that song a little bit more.
Yeah.
You gotta look inward and really realize that, the problem and the solution really just starts with you,
For real.
you know?
Amen to that, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's scary, dude. Like even today, like I know I could be making much more money than I could be. Like maybe in the future it would be a little more comfortable seeing my bank and like, but I always see like minuses. Like the fuck is happening? Like
Yeah, I know there's more reds than like the green deposits,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I guess going back to John's advice though, I think it's super valuable. I think local families really just need to sit down and print out your bank statements and just schedule like a day, one day out of the month, and just sit down with your spouse or your significant other,
Hmm.
whoever it is, or just sit down with yourself and really look at what you're spending money on.
Yeah.
And nowadays, there are apps out there that keep track of your spending
Yeah.
too. It'll tell you like if you're, where your spending is going in terms of entertainment, dining out, travel, gas, all those things. It'll categorize it for you.
Yeah.
And like what John said, just you got to cut out some of the fluff sometimes. If you're trying to buy a house, I mean, maybe don't eat out as much, right?
Hmm.
Like eating out now, we just went out like last week and we spent like $100 for just
Yeah.
like the four of us, right? If you eat out like 3 times a week, that's $300.
Dude, that can
For
kill you.
right, and then you
Yeah.
do that every week, that's $1,200. And if we look at that over like a year, that's like, can't math right now, but like what is that, 14,000
Yeah,
something
it's
dollars,
thousands of dollars. Like just eating out is
right?
like majority of the money waster in Hawaii especially.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
$14,000. I mean, that could be a pretty decent down payment
Yeah.
for, like, I mean, depending what you're gonna buy, but
Yeah.
that can be a down payment, right? Like 10 years ago, I helped one of my best friends buy this condo, and his down payment was literally just $10,000 for a one
Oh,
bedroom,
not bad.
right? Yeah.
That's not bad
So
at all.
fourteen thousand
Yeah.
dollars. I mean, if you're trying to buy a house or just buy a condo for yourself, that's a down payment right there.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just, sacrifice a little bit. Don't eat out every single week, but it's a small, tiny little sacrifice to really set yourself up for the future.
Exactly. Man, I know like even the people around me, like we eat out, but we could be saving a lot and like average $50 for a dinner or lunch of two
Yeah.
with tip, even 60. Dude, it can get expensive here, right? Plate lunch almost $20. And yeah, it's basically just sitting down again with your family. I did this for my mom and dad, and I want to bring their story. I don't want to like talk about their relations, what happened too much, but their relationship was strained by financial stress. Even if
Mm.
they had like really good jobs, like my mom was a nurse, dad was a sheriff, they worked multiple jobs. They didn't really take the time to sit down and see their finances until they were older. I had to like actually sit them down and say, "Hey, why are you arguing? Let's look at what's happening."
Wow.
And that really helped them. That I remember they were like really arguing about their retirement years. How are we gonna handle retirement? How are we gonna live in Hawaii?
Yeah.
And basically, I was like, "Hey, let's sit down." And they're like financial advisors. They were at financial.
Oh, wow.
They help people with their money. They did like insurance and stuff, and they did that, but they didn't look within, which is very interesting. Like,
Oh, man. Dude, that's such a powerful like message right there. Yeah, but I mean, continue. I mean, that's yeah.
yeah. So it's painful to look at yourself when even if you know what you need to do for other people or what other need people need to do for themselves,
Right.
you don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
So me as their son, I was like, okay, how do I help them kind of chill out a bit and like prevent our household from like catching on fire? So basically sit down, we did a personal financial statement. It was really simple. It was like um, income, the cash flow, their expenses, their debts, and what they're paying on a monthly basis. And yeah, basically that gave us a picture. And they weren't as bad as they thought they were, because we were like, okay, let's do this. Let's rent out the house. Let's cut off on this spending. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad because they had cash flow. Unlike me, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I need like those big deals that last me a long time. But like, if you have a W-2 and if you have a job, maybe you're not as bad as you think. You just need to cut things.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. No, I hear you. And that's so good that you were able to do that for your parents too, right? I think if you were to look up the statistic right now, I think looking at your finances or just money problems in general, I think that's like probably either number one or number two biggest reason why couples these days just their marriages just dissolve,
Yeah.
right?
Unfortunately.
All
Yeah.
these fights that happen, a lot of times it's because of finances, right? So it's so cool that you were able to do that. And I love that after you sat them down and went through it, they realize, hey, we're actually not that bad, right? I think there's something really powerful there to really talk about too. It's like, you know, you sit there and you have all this anxiety and worries about your finances. Why not just sit down and really see if you should be worried about it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like from your parents' example, it's like they were freaking out about it when really they didn't have to,
for real. Yeah.
right? Yeah, they and it's so good to it's funny that they're financial advisors too. Like
Or in the past, they
yeah.
did like insurance for maybe a good 3 years
Mm,
in the past, maybe combined 5. But like basically, as an insurance advisor or financial advisor, you have to look at everything. They invest in things called index universal life. It's like a cash growing insurance policy. Anyways, they they had to do that. They had to like talk to their friends and family, people who they were gonna sell to, and say, "Hey, how much can you save? How much is going out?" That's what they did,
yeah.
but they didn't do it for themselves. I don't know why.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
It's it's interesting that you bring that up because I feel like a lot of people, if they cannot do it themselves, they end up teaching people how to do it too.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's funny. Like my me likes to talk about this a lot. Like I teach a lot of my mentees, other realtors, how to sell more homes,
Yeah.
and then yet like I can't do it myself. You
Oh,
know?
dude, you're doing well, man. By the way, little plug-in. David has a listing nearby. Uh, it's in Makakilo. It's about 15 minutes from this area. This is a
Yes.
cool beach that you can come to. It's beautiful here. I come here every week. I live in Kapolei, and man, I love it here. Just look at the view.
Yeah. It's oh man, it's really nice out here. If I lived out here, I'd probably come to this beach more often. You know.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that are happening here. There's Costco. There's Kanali'i, the mall that's being built. There's a lot of homes being built on this side. So you're gonna see a lot of action, a lot of growth, a lot of property values going up in the next couple years. So Kapolei is pretty cool. We rent out our house to travel nurses, and that's been helping my parents' cash flow. Unfortunately, I moved in there, but, but I'm paying them rent. I'm helping them pay for their mortgage, but
Oh,
when
that's
I
good.
move out, I'm gonna we're gonna rent it out.
That's good. That's good.
But anyways, yeah, dude, I want you to speak about your listing. What is it?
Yeah, so it's a 5 bedroom, 3 bath, single family home, 2 stories, located in Makakilo, the Kahivelo neighborhood.
Nice.
Um, Beautiful home. We just recently did a price drop on it too. So we went from 1,550,000 and we're down to $1,505,000. I think it's a fantastic deal. Um, yeah, schedule showing and make an offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
information below. But back to Price into Paradise. I want to talk about that. So basically, there's a panel, and there's investors, fix and flippers, um, long-term hold investors, and basically they got together and talked about how to solve this issue. One investor in particular, his name is Kione, and he does fix and flips. What he said was the answer is connected to DPP. Like if DPP hurries up, and he said so, don't, it's not word for word, but like if they like figure out their system, if permits are like move faster, we can build, like us investors can build more homes.
Yeah.
We can provide more supply and put more families from Hawaii in the homes that we built, basically.
Oh man, I feel you. I think that is a huge problem that Hawaii has to deal with. You know, my neighbor by our place in Kamiki, like when we were living there, they had told us that they had applied for DPP because they own like another piece of property,
Yeah.
and they told us when we had moved in, they were already at that point waiting an entire year
Oh
for a
wow.
permit to come through. And then by the time that we moved out and went back to my parents' place, that was like another year and the permit still hadn't gone through. So I'm like, man, like 2 years, like and
That's crazy.
during that wait too, I mean like labor costs are going up, material costs are going up. like everything's going up, you know? And
Yeah.
then because building code changes sometimes too, they had to go back to the architect and redraw new plans. So that's
Mhm.
like an increased cost there. And the entire time, like they're still paying property taxes on it. They're still paying for like insurance and like all these other costs like just keep adding up. So
Yeah.
I think that's so true though. Keone has a really strong point there. DPP is the problem, right?
Yeah, and he was like, I wanted to talk to them, but like I was too busy or something.
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna talk to them after this, but DPP, like please,
yeah,
something like that. Like not word for word, but like basically, I think that's it, man. Like, uh, I don't know the exact numbers, but is like a very small percentage of Hawaii being residential, right? Zone for residential. Like, is that true?
yeah,
Very
yeah.
small percent.
Very, very tiny percentage of the land is zoned for residential.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And because there's such a small place where people can live, this increases demand. Like people are pretty much competing for homes, and that's driving up the price. People are coming in from the mainland, retiring here. I don't know what they're doing, but like basically all kinds of reasons. Like people love Hawaii. It's beautiful, nice, but the prices are going up year after year.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really insane. You know, we live in paradise, but man, it paradise really does come at a cost.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you said earlier, just we have a very finite amount of land. You know, like this island is not getting any bigger, right? You know, in fact, like parts of it is eroding.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
real.
so really, like what you see is just kind of what you get at this point, and that's why you see a lot of like just new condos coming up too, because you know our land is like pretty much we're kind of tapped out
Yeah.
almost at this
Just
point.
build up.
You know, we have to build up, right? And that's why we see all these like beautiful buildings, but it's like that's kind of just the future at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you mentioned last episode that these luxury apartment buildings, most of them are empty.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. It's terrible.
Oh, dude. So I actually went to it wasn't DPP. It was like the council. It was some government related booth. It was at the event, and basically I was like, so what's gonna happen? How are we going to be a part of the or how are you gonna be a part of the solution? And basically, they talked about like, well, there's a lot of projects like affordable projects going on their way. There's actually a lot
Yeah,
like multifamily, many hundreds of units going up, and they talked about like land, government land being leased to developers, and developers are gonna build on this, and that's how they're gonna get like some kind of incentive to. They're gonna get
oh,
like some money
so
to build.
like a leasehold situation.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm.
They're gonna lease the land and create more units. So I'll actually take a picture of the pamphlets they gave me. Maybe it'll be useful, but yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that. You know, like I think being realtors, I'm always on the side of like owning real estate,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
fee simple real estate for that matter. So I
exactly.
mean, it's cool that the government is allowing for that, like leasing land to developers, for them to build affordable housing. But like at the end of the day, like because they don't own the land,
Yeah,
they don't truly have all the benefits of being a homeowner,
right.
right? Um, I mean, kudos to the state for trying to do something, but man, it's there needs to be more affordable housing, fee simple affordable housing
Yeah.
for local families, right? And I think the government also incentivizes a lot of developers to create apartment buildings, like rental
Yep.
units,
Yep.
right? Affordable rental units. But at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, like, you know, I think families should be focusing on building equity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not padding the wallet of another developer, like another landlord, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. There's a lot more I could say about it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, I want to touch up on that. Like, so they're building multifamily rental units, but I believe that 100% you need equity because we live in an equity driven state,
yeah,
and they are going to increase supply of rental units, but not supply of things that you can own,
Yeah.
right? And that real estate is the staple of building legacy or family wealth. And I saw that through my parents. And yeah, we should have more opportunities for owning, right?
Yeah. Agree. 100%.
Yeah, man, trippy. But yes, we did interview a few other families. One of them was my friend Kenneth Adams and his daughter. So he brought up the point that in order to own or stay here in Hawaii, you need to uh, be disciplined in trying to own your own home. Like
Mm,
that means like saving. The daughter actually moved to the the father's the in-laws house, and they're like staying there and to save money,
yeah.
and then purchase later on. I moved into my parents' house. I'm saving a shit ton of money.
Yeah. That's how
Yeah,
to do it. That's how to do it. And there is absolutely no shame in doing that, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. I'm glad your friend said that because it's so true. I think Hawaii does have a huge discipline problem, and we mentioned this in that first podcast episode too. Hawaii people have a huge problem with delaying gratification.
yeah,
I
yeah,
cannot say it enough, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'm sure Chris has, been through
yeah.
similar situations too. But I think the sooner we learn how to delay our gratification, the better off we'll be.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's a human issue.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah,
like basically those who seriously put in the time and effort to learn and be disciplined, they're the ones that are gonna win in the long run. Like to set their families up for generations to come.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have a prime example of that. One of my clients, um, I'm not gonna name her just in case, but
Yeah, yeah. Client
so she,
confidentiality.
yeah, for confidentiality reasons, but she is like crazy rich Asian rich.
Okay.
Okay, like and it's amazing. So she is a single mother.
Oh.
She has 3 kids, but she is like loaded, like completely loaded. And I look up to her, and it's crazy because we have very similar goals, right? We want to set up a legacy for our children, retire early, like all that kind of stuff, right? But the way in which we lead our lives in order to achieve that goal is completely different. And case in point, there was this one night she actually called up me and I because she was freaking out about her. It was the electricity bill for one of her rentals,
Okay.
and she was so worried because there was like a $15 discrepancy.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's $15. Whatever, like you make that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Doing
yeah.
what you do. It's like whatever. But she would not let it go.
Oh
That
wow.
those $15, and it got me thinking. I'm like, man, you know, I'm nowhere near as rich or wealthy as she is, right? By far. But she probably like 10x's my net worth, at least,
Oh wow.
right? And for her to be in that part of life and still, I don't want to say lose sleep over $15, but it kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it got me thinking. I need to be as disciplined as she is because
Wow.
how many times have I just been like, it's $2, whatever, or it's $20 and don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah.
If I had changed my mindset a little bit, I mean, who knows? Maybe I could be, maybe not crazy rich, but definitely a little bit better off, right?
That's so interesting, dude.
Yeah,
Like she is a stickler for a couple bucks, but like normal people would be like, it's fine.
yeah. Like and it kind of goes back to what your friend was saying. It's like it's that discipline. I'm not saying like
Yeah.
we have to be like so disciplined like how my
Yeah,
client
yeah,
is, right?
yeah.
But if we even had half of that discipline, I think we'd be a lot further in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so interesting. So, she is. I kind of understand why she's like caught up about 15 bucks because if you multiply this by 12 months of the year,
Yeah.
it changes the value of the actual asset.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, just a merely 15 bucks can change the value of, because it's cash flowing, right? It's multifamily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. And I mean that kind of brings into like subscription services into like the conversation, right?
dude,
You
oh
know,
my
like how
god,
much does Netflix cost you? Disney Plus,
bro.
Hulu,
Yeah,
you know, like all those things, it's like what, 10, 15 bucks a month, but when you
dude.
really add it up, it's pretty significant, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to John saying just you need to cut the fluff. I have probably like 10 subscriptions going on because we're business owners. We need like the like Canva,
Yeah.
um Adobe Suite or something.
CapCut.
Yeah, CapCut. Dude,
Yeah.
but you bought like the yearly subscription. You saved money, bro.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. But yeah, this can mean a lot to your cash flow. And so I ran into some financial issues about 3 years ago, and that's the first thing I had to cut, like all my subscriptions. Just stop paying for it.
Yeah.
Buy Netflix, and it helped a lot. I was
Yeah.
paying out like 200 bucks in total, even more a month in subscription stuff.
No way.
Yeah, cuz as a business owner, you want to have an edge in like what you're doing or what you're using. So, yeah, I spent a lot, dude.
Wow. I mean, props to you for being able to cut out the fluff, like how John Quindara said. I mean, it must have been tough, but you know, you're now ahead because you're able to do that, right? You have the discipline to do so. When Nee and I first met, I had a huge problem with that too myself. Like I had a bunch of subscriptions. I was doing like Uber Eats like all the time,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
door dashing. I paid for like everybody's Netflix too. I would share the
Oh,
passwords
wow.
back
Yeah,
back
yeah.
when it was still okay to do so. But yeah, like it wasn't until I met her and we had this goal of like trying to buy our first place too. That's when we had to get like real down and dirty with specifically my finances because she
Yeah.
was fine. She's extremely frugal in that regard. But man, like it was, we had to take a cold hard look at like why I was making money, but I had nothing to show for it,
Yeah.
right? And it's because I had all these things. Like it's that lifestyle creep that we were kind of talking about. I think a lot of people increase their lifestyle exponentially when they start to make a lot of money,
Hmm.
when really they should be trying to stay in that same lifestyle for as long as they can
Yeah.
and build up that little nest egg to achieve what they want to do and then have those assets that they purchase later on pay for those fun things.
That's amazing, dude. Cause like those the discipline, just cutting everything, those few years of discomfort can set you up for like
Yeah.
life. And I'm just like, I knew it, but like I'm seriously realizing it now as a dad and as someone in real estate and
Yeah.
yeah, someone trying to build legacy and buy a home and stuff like that.
Yeah. I push that a lot to my clients too. Like, man, I don't know how many clients of mine have told me the same thing. You know, after they like find their home and they're at the signing table and they they always say this saying like, "Oh, signing away my life," you know, and that's like the number one saying I hear all the time. And then number two is like, "Oh, instant ramen every day. That's it." Like, you know, I'm like, I mean, but
That's
it's true
funny.
though. Like, it's a little bit of sacrifice, right? And you know, when you own your first place, it is going to be like that, a little bit of sacrifice, and you are going to have to eat some instant ramen for a little while, right? Sometimes it's going to have to happen, but
Yeah.
man, I mean, if you take a step back, you know, a year or two from now, you're going to look back at it and laugh because it's like the best decision you're ever going to make.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to have to eat instant ramen for a little bit, you know, no going out for a little while, but making those sacrifices and having the discipline to do so will set you up so much for the future. And I think, especially because we're dads now, our kids, when they see mom and dad make those kinds of sacrifices, I feel like because kids are like sponges,
Yeah.
you know, they're going to see it and they're going to internalize that. And then, you know, hopefully without us even having to really teach them, they'll just start to do it themselves. I think that'd be super cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like value money and sacrifice and delayed gratification. They're just gonna learn from us, man.
Yeah.
We can be their example.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they teach it to their kids too.
Hopefully. I hope so too.
Okay, we have to sacrifice. We have to be disciplined. But what's the next step of home ownership? Okay, let's say I want to buy a home.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. I looked at my finances, not to the point of like knowing exactly what I can get, but I know that I'm somewhat ready. Maybe 50-50. Where do I go?
That is an excellent question. So I would say the very first step that you would do after you kind of look at your finances there is, and you're going to hear a lot of realtors say this, it's talking to a realtor. You know, I think we as realtors, we sort of act almost as like a middleman for quite a long time in that like those first few steps of that relationship,
Mhm.
right? But talking to a realtor, we can, you know, link you guys up with people, with other people's in different industries to help you, right? So if you come out to me as a realtor, I'm going to tell you, hey, perfect. I love that you're ready to buy a home. Let's get you talking to one of my lenders. Our lenders will be able to help you figure out exactly where your finances are. It'll give you a nice foundation of where to start from. And
Mhm.
even if you determine that you're not quite ready yet, the lenders that I work with, they can help guide you. They'll give you a game plan to set you on that path to success, right? And there are going to be some realtors and some lenders out there that are like, oh, you can't buy now. Okay, well, you know, let me know when you're ready.
Ouch.
Which sucks. There are people out there like that,
Yeah.
but I think truly the best realtors out there, um, they're going to kind of hold your hand through like that whole process, right? They'll
Yeah.
check in on you, make sure you're sticking to your goals. Um, so yeah, I think that would be your very first step, reaching out to your favorite realtor. Hopefully it's one of us, right? Because we'll link you up with the best lenders out there, the ones that'll guide you through the process. In fact, like I think every single lender I work with, they'll actually take you through a first time home buyer financial education class.
That's awesome, dude. It's like from step one.
Yeah, and they'll teach you about it. They'll teach you about the loan process. Um, they'll help you look at your finances, and I think here's the thing too. A lot of people are so worried about talking to a lender. Lenders out there can actually do soft pulls on your credit
Yeah.
to, help qualify you to see if you can afford a home. They don't have to do the hard pull right away. Right?
Yeah.
The soft pull kind of gives you like a little bit of a snapshot, and then once you find your home, then they'll have to do the hard pull eventually. But at least doing that soft pull, it gives you like a much better idea than if you were to just go it alone.
So it doesn't damage your credit.
Yeah,
Like,
and it gets you one step further into your home ownership journey.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and it's so huge to really look at your finances too. Um, I can tell you, like from the past, uh, and even being a realtor, I give like all this really good advice, but I don't take it myself. But when we were looking at properties, I figured like, you know what, I make enough money. We'll be able to afford this. It's
Yeah, yeah.
fine. So we started looking at all these properties, and then when it came time, we found the right home, and then we started looking at my finances, talking to the lender. Come to realize, oh crap, I wrote off so much stuff that I can't afford the home.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So truly, like, you need to talk to the lender because it'll save you so much heartache,
Yeah.
right? So much headache too. Because we started falling in love with all these homes only to realize we couldn't afford it,
Oh, wow.
right? So yeah, save yourself the heartache and just talk to a lender and figure out your finances. That's a crucial first step.
Even if you're making really good money, you still couldn't qualify for the home because of the financing?
Yeah. So as realtors, like, or at least for me, I write off a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
you know,
As a
like,
business person
right?
too.
Yeah, like the business trips, the meals that I have with clients, the gas, the insurance,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
anything we could think of, I wrote it off because I don't want Uncle Sam to take away
Yeah.
my hard-earned money. My financial advisors, my CPA, even my lender at the time, like they're all like, hey, like we can either amend your taxes,
Oh, I
right?
see, I see.
Not do as many write-offs, and then you can probably buy the home, or we just buy something cheaper,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Okay.
So Yeah, it's good and bad. Like I would say, if you are like a business owner, if you get a 1099 or something like that, if you are trying to buy a house, don't write off anything. Make sure those numbers
Interesting,
are like as high as they can be, because
dude.
that's what they'll qualify you on.
Wow.
And the cool thing about being a realtor too,
Yeah.
and this is amazing for you in the future,
Yeah.
because we are realtors, we actually have, I don't know if it's like a loophole, but lenders can actually just consider 1 year
Mm-hmm.
of sales for you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So normally they'll actually like, the normal process is they'll look at 2 years of income, and then they'll qualify you based on like an average of that income.
Mm-hmm.
As realtors, as long as you've been a realtor for, I think it was like either 3 or 5 years, I forget the exact number, but if you just kill it in 1 year, they can just take a look at that 1 year and
Oh,
qualify you based on that 1 year,
cool.
right?
That's my goal, man. I
Yeah,
didn't even know this. That's
yeah,
so
it's
cool.
super cool. So
Wow.
realtors out there, we kind of have like some benefits in terms of owning a home too.
Whoa.
Yeah. So if you absolutely kill it, like let's just say like year one and year two, you only made like 100 grand, but year three, you
Yeah.
just absolutely crushed it and made $500,000.
Yeah.
They'll just take that 500 grand and they'll qualify you based on that 500. It's amazing.
Dude, my mind is blowing right now.
Yeah.
So that's super cool because this is like the insider secrets of real estate and owning a home. And
Yeah.
I was always wondering, like, okay, entrepreneurs or real estate agents are entrepreneurs, but they don't have like consistent W-2 income. But that makes sense, dude.
Yeah. That's how they do it. That's how
Wow.
they do it. So it has gotten a little bit more difficult though, especially after COVID.
Yeah.
So now as a realtor, if you're trying to buy a home, um, the lender is actually going to ask if you have current escrows going on too, because I want to make sure that you are still producing. So
Oh, okay. You
if
can't
you,
have like zero or no
yeah, like
action.
every time we try to do something, they've always asked me, "Hey, are you still in escrow for something? Can you prove it?" So I had to show them the paperwork
That's funny.
that I was still in escrow, that I was still making money at the time.
Dude,
So yeah, that's kind of like the catch-22 about that though.
that's interesting. But that just goes to show that there's so much things to learn in this world about home ownership. And why not l- go to someone like David who has 10 years in the business, who has all the resources, lenders, escrow officers, just good people around him. Like you built this network for a long time and you trust them.
Yeah,
So why not, if you're a home seeker and you want to buy your own home, why not leverage someone's knowledge and experience? And I think that's a lot of people's fears. Like, like I'm a little shy about my finances. I don't want to see anyone until I feel like I'm ready. But that's further from the truth, right? You should see someone from the very beginning of your
yeah,
journey.
yeah, absolutely. I like that you said that too. Like, if you kind of feel like you're ready to go for it, like you're never gonna know when you're ready until you actually talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Like for all we know, like you might actually be ready right now, and then
Hmm.
you're just gonna keep waiting until you think you're ready, and then during that time you're gonna miss all these opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, again, crucial first step: talk to a lender and figure it out, because the best time to buy real estate was yesterday. The
Yeah.
second best time is like absolutely right now.
Yeah.
The absolute worst time is buying it tomorrow, right? Because you just never know, right? But I also do want to mention, buying real estate, like you also have to be able to comfortably afford it though,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't stretch yourself so thin where you're just kind of one paycheck away from going into foreclosure,
Hmm.
right? But don't hold back. Take some risk too, and believe in yourself and push yourself a little bit to buy real estate.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
if someone were to go to a lender and they weren't quite ready, but almost, would the lender be like, I don't think you can do it, man? Like,
So the cool thing about a lot of lenders out there is they have access to a lot of different loan programs too. Specifically like mortgage brokers,
hmm,
right? If you go to like your typical brick and mortar kind of bank, um, I don't want to name them, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
like the typical bank, they're kind of limited to like their own product that they can do, right?
Hmm.
Versus if you go to like a mortgage broker, I mean, there are hundreds, if not like 1,000 different loan products out there, you know, and they can kind of go around and shop for the perfect program for your specific situation.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have more access to different things.
Yeah, yeah. They have more flexibility too, like with the rates and all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like brick and mortar banks, like they have to pay all these fees and stuff, right? Whereas like a mortgage broker, like some of them just have virtual offices and stuff like that, right? They don't have all that overhead, so their costs are usually a little bit lower too.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, like I think a lot of those lenders out there, they'll completely try to exhaust all their resources to
Hmm.
find a loan product that fits your specific needs. And the ones that I work with, if you can't qualify for something right now, they'll still kind of nurture you. You know, they'll check in every so often, make sure you're sticking to your goals.
That's
And before
awesome.
you even leave, they'll develop a game plan with you too. You know, they'll look at your finances and be like, hey, if we kind of cut back on this a little bit, or if you work some extra hours here and there, then maybe we can revisit this in like 6 months,
That's cool.
right? They're not just gonna
Yeah.
leave you out there and
Just
leave you out to dry.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Dude, that's so important. Game plan, man, because I think it was Malcolm X that said like people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Yes.
And man, just having a game plan, a strategy. Like people don't win on accident unless you win the lottery.
Yeah.
Like we're in this game to win. Like we want to win at life. We want to teach people how to do this. And David's a little far, actually much further ahead of me, but I'm learning from him. So I invite you to download the buyer guide, download the seller guides if you're a seller, and learn. So you said something about how not all realtors will take you by the hand and like guide you. They'll just be like, "You're not ready. See you later. Come to me when you're
Mm.
ready."
Yeah, unfortunately, there are those like that in our industry, and like every industry in general too. You do have those that are just out there trying to make some money. But I want to say the really good realtors, they're not just going to drop you, right? They're going to hold your hand and really guide you through that process, right? And I think as first time home buyers or just people who have the goal of owning their own piece of Hawaii, I think it's super important to really seek out those realtors that will truly be your advocate,
Yeah.
in this home buying process. And just if you require some hand holding, like find the realtors that are going to be able to do that.
What do you think about this? I know there's like top producing realtors that like maybe they have like hundreds of clients. Maybe they won't have a lot of time to seriously hold your hand. Is that what do you think about that? This is just my imagination.
Oh, that is a good
Yeah.
question. I want to say like so a lot of the top producing realtors, many of them actually have teams of agents.
Oh, I see. I see.
So I would say I would go with some of those top producing realtors too, because obviously they got there because they know what they're doing, right?
Hmm.
And they're able to impart that knowledge to their team members too.
I see.
So I would say like you are going to be in really good hands when you reach out to those, because I think at the end of the day too, like if you decide to work with like a brand new realtor also,
Yeah.
like Chris for instance, he's gonna get licensed pretty soon.
Working on
Don't
it.
worry about if your realtor is completely brand new or not, because all of our contracts are always reviewed by someone who is much more experienced. So, have some confidence and take comfort in knowing that you will never be signing something that will sign you up for liability.
Yeah.
There are what we call brokers in charge
Hmm.
or principal brokers who always review the contracts before they ever reach the client's desk,
Oh,
before it ever reaches their inbox.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. I have a question. So, for first time home buyers, what are good questions to vet a realtor?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, so just want to be straight up. Like the reason why I chose to work under David because I feel like we're the same age. He understands my situation. He has a lot of experience dealing with millennials, and your brand is the millennial realtor. And I was like, dude, he should understand what I'm going through, and that's why I chose him. How do you vet?
Man, that is a great question. So I want to say like there are probably like 10,000 realtors on in the state.
Dude,
Um,
that's a lot.
yeah, there are quite a few. There will probably be less moving into the next year because of all these like new rules and stuff. I think renewals are kind of down.
Oh,
Um, but I would say in terms of questions to ask, I think the number one question to ask would probably be how many homes they have sold this year, how many years they've been in the industry. And the reason for that is you want to be working with a realtor who really has a pulse on the situation, right? Someone who is up to date with all the newest regulations on all the new inventory that's going on.
yeah,
Like if you are working with a realtor that's only sold like one home the entire year, they probably don't have a really good idea of what's going on in the market,
yep.
right? The types of like strategies it'll take to really push your clients towards success,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? Now, if you have somebody, a realtor who's doing like one or two homes per month, they have a much better idea of what's going on. And the ones that are just doing like, 5 to 10 homes per month, I mean, they sure as hell know what they're doing, right? They have a very firm grasp of like what is going on in the market.
Interesting.
So I think that would be one of the first questions that I would ask.
Well, would you more advise to talk to the broker of the company that they represent, because or the person that will be overseeing things?
I don't think it's necessary to just go directly to the broker. Because, like I said earlier, all our contracts that we ever present to the client, they're always reviewed by either a broker in charge or the principal broker too.
I
So
see.
you're kind of almost getting two realtors in one
Oh,
transaction a
that's
little
cool.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the transaction like in that home buying process, if something goes south, the principal brokers and the brokers in charge, they'll come in and try to help out too. Um, yeah, so I don't think you necessarily have to just forego working with the realtor and just go direct to the principal brokers and all that too.
Oh, I see. I
Um,
see.
I'm a broker in charge myself at Real Broker, and I personally don't want everybody doing that because I already have enough duties on my own
Yeah, yeah.
being a broker in charge. So yeah, I mean, if you have a realtor that you like to work with that you vibe really well with, just work with that realtor. Totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm on the journey of homeownership, buying my first property. This is all really good information for me, and I know a lot of people who don't own homes. This will be great. But what is one last piece of advice that you'd like to give to those wanting to buy a home?
I would say don't be discouraged. It is extremely discouraging once you start to look at your finances and then you come to that realization that, oh man, what have I been doing with my life? You know what? I'm just going to keep renting. A lot of my clients kind of go through that cycle,
Oh wow.
that little bit of a mindset. Um, but yeah, I would say don't be discouraged. Reach out to people when you need help. Talk to a realtor, and again, interview the realtors too, and just figure out who really has your best interest in mind. Don't
Yeah.
be discouraged. Keep your head up. Homeownership is tough. There is no sugarcoating that at all, right? It requires a lot of sacrifice, but if you have a goal of staying here and raising your kids here, it's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require discipline, and just keep at it. Eventually, you'll be able to do it.
Dude, love that, man. And what I really like is that you're not alone on the journey. Like there's a lot of people that are afraid, struggling, but you're not alone on the journey and you can seek for help.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that brings into mind this saying. I think you said it the last time too. If you want to go fast, go solo. If you want to go far, you go with a team,
Heck yeah, man.
right? And I think that rings so true with people who are trying to buy a home, their very first home. Go at it with a team. Don't go it alone. because you're not gonna know where to start anyway. So like talk to a realtor, figure it out, and then you go on that journey together. Right?
That's
Homeownership is it's a journey, right? It's not just a one and done thing,
yeah.
right? So yeah, just find people that you vibe with, that you can trust, and just attack it together.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And we'll end with that. This is the Realtor Daddy podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. Peace out.